Ever played a game so good it ruined every other game for you? Today, we are talking about 15 perfect 10 out of 10 games, masterpieces that every gamer needs to experience at least once. From breathtaking stories to next level gameplay, these are the absolute best. Let's dive in. Let's kick things off with God of War 2018 and Ragnarok.
Fine. My turn.
What really stood out to me in God of War was how different it felt from the older games. It wasn't just non-stop action, it had weight, emotion, and a slower, more thoughtful pace. I liked how Kratos was trying to be more than just a warrior, and his relationship with Atreus felt real, sometimes awkward, sometimes warm, but always believable. The combat had a strong impact, especially with the axe, and I enjoyed learning enemy patterns and unlocking new moves. Then in Ragnarok, everything became bigger, but it didn't lose the heart. It kept the same tight gameplay and deep story, but expanded the world and gave more space for Atreus to grow too. Exploring new realms and seeing returning characters evolve made the experience feel natural. I didn't rush either game. They made me want to take my time. It's rare to see action games focus this much on people, and that's what made both so memorable for me. Next, we have Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 felt less like a game and more like being part of a world that didn't need me to move forward. I often found myself getting sidetracked, just riding across the map, watching the weather change or listening to conversations at camp. Playing as Arthur Morgan, I slowly realized how layered he was, not just an outlaw, but a man trying to figure out what kind of life he wanted to leave behind. The story unfolded in a natural way, and even smaller tasks had meaning. Hunting, fishing, cleaning my gun, or simply helping a stranger on the road, none of it felt like filler. The controls took time to get used to, but once I did, everything clicked. Some choices stuck with me longer than I expected. By the end, I cared more than I thought I would. It's a slow burn, but if you let it pull you in, it's one of the most complete gaming experiences you can have. And next, we have Elden Ring.
Heed my words.
At first, Elden Ring was frustrating. I didn't know where to go, enemies crushed me, and the map felt endless. But slowly, I started figuring things out. The game doesn't explain much. You learn by trying things and failing, and somehow that made every little victory feel earned. What I loved most was the freedom. If something felt too hard, I could just go somewhere else and try again later. The world felt massive but also full of surprises. Every corner had something, an item, a new boss, or a weird story told through the environment. The combat was smooth once I got used to my weapon and build, and there's a crazy amount of variety depending on how you want to play. I ended up loving how personal it felt. My journey was totally different from my friends. It doesn't care about holding your hand, but that's exactly why it's so rewarding once it all clicked. Next on the list is Cyberpunk 2077. Honestly, I waited a long time to play Cyberpunk 2077 because of all the issues at launch. When I finally did, with all the major updates and Phantom Liberty added in, it felt like a completely different game. Night Sea is probably the most detailed open world I've explored. I liked just walking around, talking to fixers, and getting caught up in all kinds of weird missions. What stood out most was the writing. Characters like V, Johnny, and Reed actually made me care. Choices felt like they had weight without being obvious. The combat was fast and flexible, whether I wanted to sneak, hack, or just go loud. Phantom Liberty in particular added a darker, more intense vibe that fit the setting really well. I didn't expect to enjoy the story so much, but some moments hit hard. It's not perfect, but when it works, it delivers a kind of experience that sticks with you after you're done. And next we got The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt.
Giving me no choice.
The Witcher 3 was the first game that made me pay attention to side quests just as much as the main story. Playing as Geralt felt natural. He's a professional, not a hero, just trying to do his job while staying out of politics and still getting dragged into everything. The writing is what hooked me. Even a random contract to kill a monster turned in something more layered. I never knew if a simple choice would come back to haunt me hours later. The world felt lived in, and every area had its own mood. Combat wasn't overly flashy, but it worked, especially once I understood how signs and oils work together. The two expansions were just as strong, especially Blood and Wine, which added a whole new region. I got fully pulled into this world, and by the time I finished, I wasn't ready to leave. It's the kind of RPG that sets the bar for everything else. Next we have Uncharted 4, A Thief's End.
Tell me, what can you
I'm
do
telling
in
you.
real life?
What do you think about that?
Hey, are you happy?
Yeah, of course. You?
Uncharted 4 was the first game in the series that really felt more grown up. Nathan Drake wasn't just cracking jokes and climbing anymore. He had a life, a past, and a reason to stop. I liked how the story showed the toll that his lifestyle had taken on him and the people around him. The bond with his brother Sam added some weight to the adventure, and their conversations felt natural, like how actual siblings would talk. The action sequences were still over the top, but this time they felt better paced. I enjoyed the mix of puzzle solving, platforming, and combat. The Madagascar section blew me away with how open and detailed it felt. What I appreciated most was the ending. It didn't try to go too big. It closed things off in a way that respected the characters. Out of all the Uncharted games, this one hit the right balance between heart, humor, and spectacle. And next on the list is Resident Evil 4 Remake. I played the original Resident Evil 4 years ago, and the remake somehow made it feel both familiar and fresh. The atmosphere was darker and more serious, but it still kept the ridiculous fun of surviving a village full of monsters. The combat felt sharper, aiming and movement were tighter, and parrying with the knife added a new layer of strategy. I liked how the remake added more depth to characters like Ashley and Luis, without changing the core of what made them interesting. Some areas were redesigned just enough to surprise returning players, and the boss fights were intense without being unfair. Inventory management was still a fun challenge, and the merchant was as entertaining as ever. It's the kind of remake that respects the original but also improves nearly every part of it. I had a great time from start to finish, and it reminded me why I loved the series in the first place.
There you go.
Next we have Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn surprised me with how good it was, especially coming from a studio known for first-person shooters. Aloy's story was easy to get into. She's curious, determined, and has something to prove. I liked how the game blended tribal life with advanced technology, and slowly unraveling the history behind the machines was one of the best parts. Combat felt unique because I had to actually think about how to fight each machine. Shooting off components or setting traps made it feel tactical. The world was gorgeous too, especially the way sunlight hit the grass or the way snow changed the way things looked. I spent hours just exploring and finding collectibles that actually felt worth it. The main story was strong, but the side content helped flesh out the world in a meaningful way. It didn't feel like a copy of other open-world games. It had its own identity, and that's what made it special. And next we have Final Fantasy VII, Remake and Rebirth.
Here, this is for you.
Huh? A flower?
That's right. It's a gift. You know, for scaring those things away.
What things?
As someone who never played the original Final Fantasy VII, the remake felt fresh and exciting. The mix of real-time combat with strategic elements made each battle feel satisfying, especially when I figured out how to make characters work together. Cloud, Tifa, Barret, and Aerith all had unique fighting styles, and I liked that the game took time to explore who they were beyond the action. The storytelling was cinematic and detailed, sometimes a bit too heavy, but it helped me connect with the world. Then Rebirth came in and opened everything up. The scale was much larger, with huge zones to explore and way more freedom in how I approached things. The characters grew even more, and I started to really feel the weight of their journey. The changes they made from the original game didn't bother me. They made sense in this version and kept me guessing. Both games felt like they respected the past while making something exciting for new players like me.
Get him!
Come on.
I'm coming!
I won't go.
Tagging out!
All the time.
Maybe this will do the trick.
Gotta be careful.
Next we have Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Metal Gear Solid 5 didn't give me the kind of deep story I expected at first, but the gameplay more than made up for it. It felt like I had endless ways to approach each mission. Stealth, gadgets, vehicles, even calling in a buddy like Quiet or D-Dog. The freedom was what made it stand out. I would spend hours planning out how to approach a base, sometimes messing it all up and needing to improvise on the spot. The controls felt smooth, and the AI responded in smart ways. If I kept using the same tricks, they adapted. The base management stuff took some time to get into, but I liked seeing my team grow. Even if the story left some loose ends, certain moments, like watching characters deal with the virus, hit hard. It's one of the few open-world games that makes you feel like you're truly in charge of how missions play out, and that kind of player freedom kept me coming back. And next we got The Last of Us, Part 1 and 2.
Who is that?
Let him
She
go!
snuck in.
Why aren't you posted up outside?
We didn't think anyone was gonna show up.
What the hell did you expect? We gotta get out of here.
The Last of Us games aren't just about survival, they're about people, choices, and the emotional cost of living in a broken world. Part 1 hit hard with Joel and Ellie's journey. Their bond built slowly, and by the end, I cared deeply about them. The world felt dangerous and brutal, but never without hope. Part 2 took everything further. It challenged me emotionally and morally. Playing as both Ellie and Abby made me question who was right, and it wasn't always clear. The violence was uncomfortable, but it was meant to be. These weren't heroes or villains, just people trying to survive, and that made the story stick with me. The gameplay improved a lot in Part 2, with smoother stealth, more freedom, and smart AI. Even in the quiet moments, playing guitar or exploring an abandoned store, it felt grounded. These two games stayed with me long after finishing them, and I don't think I'll forget them anytime soon.
You good? Yeah. You recognize any of these guys?
I want everybody down here now!
Where'd those shots come from?
I don't know. Search the courtyard. You, hold the cafeteria. I'll cover here.
Next on the list is Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
Hey!
Breath of the Wild was one of those games where I'd start playing with a goal in mind and then get completely sidetracked by something new. There's a real sense of curiosity it rewards, like if you see something interesting on a mountain, you can go there, and there's probably something cool waiting. The freedom is what stood out most. I could fight a group of enemies by dropping a boulder from a cliff or just sneak past them entirely. Even solving puzzles felt open-ended. The world didn't hold your hand, but it also didn't feel overwhelming. I appreciated how the game let me figure things out on my own. The art style was peaceful, and the music came in softly, never distracting from the world. It was relaxing but never boring. Even after finishing the main story, I still felt like I had things to do and places to explore. It's one of those rare games that really makes you feel like you're part of the world. And next we have Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima pulled me in from the start with its gorgeous landscapes and simple yet effective combat. Playing as Jin, torn between the samurai code and the need to do whatever it takes to save his home, made the story feel personal. I loved how I could play it my way, either sticking to the honorable path or becoming more of a ghost through stealth. The world was packed with small things to discover, like hot springs and haiku spots, and they all felt like they added to Jin's journey. Combat was sharp and responsive, especially when mastering the different stances. Duels felt intense, not because they were hard, but because of how they were framed. The game didn't overwhelm me with icons and distractions. It just let me explore and enjoy. The wind guiding me was such a small but genius idea. I'd often pause just to take in the scenery. It's a game that respects your time while still offering depth. Next game, actually two games on the list, are A Plague Tale, Innocence and Requiem.
Did you come to finish me?
Shut up! We're taking you out of here!
I didn't expect to get so emotionally invested in Amicia and Hugo's story, but both games hit me hard. Innocence started small, a sister trying to protect her brother, but as it went on, it grew into something much bigger. The way they dealt with the rats, the plague, and the Inquisition felt intense without relying on combat. Most of the time, I was sneaking and solving puzzles, and that kept the tension high. Requiem expanded on everything, more abilities, bigger environments, and a more complex emotional story. Seeing Hugo's powers grow and how it affected their bond was heartbreaking. The stealth gameplay got better, and the set pieces felt more polished. What stood out most, though, was the quiet moments, the conversations between characters, the sadness they carried. It felt human, even in a world filled with supernatural horror. These games don't rely on big action. They pull you in with story, atmosphere, and emotion.
No! I'll kill you! Don't! It won't happen! No!
Do you mind taking this bloody rope off my neck?
Yes. Right.
Watch out! Heavy bastards approaching! You've done enough damage!
And finally, we have Alan Wake 2.
Christ!
What's in the night?
Alan Wake 2 is one of the most unique games I've played in a long time. It mixes horror, detective work, and storytelling in a way that constantly kept me guessing. I liked how the game let me switch between Alan and Saga, and both had completely different vibes. Alan's sections were surreal and psychological, while Saga's felt more grounded and investigative. The flashlight mechanic returned, but felt more refined, and the new mind place system was a smart way to keep track of clues. The pacing was slow at times, but it added to the tension, especially when wandering through creepy forests or unsettling dreamlike environments. It never relied on cheap scares, just atmosphere and weirdness that built up over time. The way it connected to Remedy's other games made it even more interesting. I didn't always understand what was going on, but that was part of the fun. It's one of those rare horror games that felt smart, stylish, and unforgettable. Alright, so those were 15 games that to me represent the best of what gaming has to offer. Whether it's for their stories, mechanics, or just how they made me feel while playing, each one stands out in its own way. If you haven't tried some of them yet, I really think they're worth your time. Thanks for watching. Feel free to share your own favorites in the comments.